Hello and welcome to Gold and Silver Assets. It's Sunday the 29th of September 2019. So it's been an interesting week in gold and silver where we've seen breaks in significant trend lines in both charts. So we'll start with the gold chart on the 4-hourly scale, and we've got this trend line here which on the daily scale stretches back until June, and you can see that here there was a false break and then it recovered. Price tried to go up and failed, and there was a clear break again, then a retest of the trend line, and price is again falling. Now we do have a significant support here at around the 1480 level, and so if this price falls below that support, I'd expect further downside here. There is a chance that the price could go up and retest this trend line, but I suspect it's going to provide some resistance there. And if we look at the gold on the daily scale, this is the trend line that was broken over here, and here's the break. Now there's a lot of thin air underneath that 1480 level, and support doesn't really arrive until around the 1430 level. So I would expect price to drop to that level, and the question is whether it's going to bounce off of that level or drop further. I think the downside is highly probably limited to a maximum of around the 1350 area, and so we've basically got two potential bounce points after which we're going to probably get resumption of the bullish trend. Now the reason that I'm talking about downside in the short term is also because we've got this divergence. So while price was rising, we've got decreasing RSI here. Let's move on to silver, and in the last video a week ago we were discussing this triangle, and I did mention that if the triangle was to break out on the upside, which it did, then the price movement upwards would be short-lived, and that's exactly what happened. So here we can see the breakout upwards, but there was significant resistance around the 1860, 1870 level, and we've got a nice double top that's formed here, followed by a drop back to the triangle and then dropping below it. Now there is quite a lot of support in multiple regions here, the 17 level and 16.5. I think the two potential bounce points here are 16.5 and at the most around the 15.5, 15.6 level. And again, this bearish outlook is also confirmed on the weekly scale of silver. So now we've got two red candles with very long wicks, showing that the bears came into force at these key levels of resistance here. So I think we do have some downside ahead of us, but I think it will probably bounce off these two areas that I discussed earlier. We can also look at the commitment of traders report for each of these metals. So at the bottom here we've got in green, that's the large speculators, and so they're supposed to, in theory, be basically on the wrong side of the trade, so the so-called dumb money, whereas you've got the commercials in red here who tend to be on the right side of the trade and are so-called smart money. Now, looking back, whenever the commercials have been neutral, both here and here, price has gone up quite substantially in both cases. When they are extremely short, which they are at the moment as well, price has tended to go down, but it's not a completely reliable signal. So we do have to take it with a pinch of salt, but this is of some concern that they are so short here, which again fits with our short-term bearish outlook. And we can say the same again for silver as well. So here they're not quite as short as they have been in the past, but again, there is a bearish bias here. So let's see what happens in the forthcoming week, but I'm expecting some downside. All right, well, thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.